Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Disagree Better, a governor's view on how business can bridge divides. For the first half hour, we'll be talking with Governor Spencer Cox of Utah, who serves as the chair of the National Governors Association. At Business America, we've been exploring business solutions to political polarization for years now, and we are so excited to give our business members and partners across the country a bit of inspiration and hope that Americans can overcome our differences and that business can play a key role in making that happen. And we intend to provide you with actionable insights and best practices that you can apply, along with an invitation to join us in this journey. We're building an online resource hub to help your company become a business that builds bridges. We want to help you find the right set of actions for your company's brand and values. So please visit the Disagree Better at Work website or contact us at info@bfa.us. We do hope that you will join us. And with that, I am so excited to start our conversation with Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. Governor, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be with you. And I honestly, I can't thank you enough for having me. I love everything you just said. I want to bottle up and share with every CEO and every board member in the country right now.
Well, I wish we could do that. So we're going to do our best to get the word out here. So some folks are joining us today that haven't yet heard your story, Governor. So I would love it if you would share with us your inspiration for the Disagree Better campaign.
Sure. Well, when a person becomes the chair of the National Governors Association, we get this amazing opportunity to work on an initiative for a year. The other governors support you and try to help accomplish whatever that is. And so I sat down with my team, and I had a list of things that I was interested in, that I think problems that our country is facing, things that we needed to work on together. I was looking at the price of healthcare, inflation, the energy concerns that we have, critical minerals, all of these different things as I was dreaming about how we could problem solve together. And then I just came to this stark realization that was overwhelming every idea that we came up with, and that is that we can't solve any of our nation's biggest problems if we all hate each other. We're seeing the dysfunction in Congress. We're seeing it more often in state legislatures now. This deep polarization, this toxic polarization, is not healthy. And I was looking at the data and the research, some of the same things that you just mentioned, and it's very clear that we're headed in a very dark direction. And so we came up with this idea: could we focus on disagreement and on disagreeing better, not just another civility initiative, although we need more civility for sure. This isn't just let's be nice to each other. It is about disagreement. It's about profound disagreement. How do we disagree and stay true to our values without the hate and contempt that is being foisted on us by the conflict entrepreneurs that you mentioned? And so we just kind of fell in love with this idea. It was influenced by experts and researchers from across the country. We wanted real data and science behind what we're trying to do. And then I thought, oh man, my fellow governors will not go for this. And so we pitched it to them, and to their credit, I was stunned at how many of them said, you know what, this is exactly what we need. We agree. We used to understand how to disagree without hate and contempt, and we'd like to get back there again.
Well, and the fact that you started this really with your campaign for governor and inviting your opponent in the general election to join you in modeling how to disagree better.
Yeah, so Sarah, this has always been part of who I am and what I care about. I started getting concerned when I became lieutenant governor of Utah. I'd been a mayor and a county commissioner and a legislator, but when I became lieutenant governor in 2013, I really started to see more of this building. Of course, I look back fondly now on 2013, but in 2016 it got even more hyper polarized. So when my wife and I we really didn't want to run for governor, but my previous governor convinced us to do it. And we decided we were going to try something different. We were going to kind of run as an experiment. We made a promise that we wouldn't run any negative ads, that we would only speak positively. We decided to do service projects all across the country, which is again a well-researched depolarization effort. We know that serving is a good way to cross those political boundaries and learn to care about each other again. And we had this crazy idea as we got closer to the election in November. So I run on the same cycle as the president, and so this was 2020. This was Trump Biden as they were battling for the presidency. A friend, we were lamenting the state of our country. We had just kind of finished a summer of destructive protests by the extreme left, and then we had an extreme right that was already undermining an election that hadn't even happened yet. And this was October, late September, early October. And my friend said, "Isn't there something you can do?" And I don't know, what can I do? I'm running for governor of Utah, And so that question kind of haunted me. So I called my opponent, a Democrat at the time, and a guy I respected, Chris Peterson. I said, "Chris, I have this crazy idea. What if we filmed an ad together, a campaign ad together, in which we said, I think you should vote for me, and I think you should vote for me, but we disagree on lots of things, but we respect each other, and we agree that we'll accept the results of this election, whatever they are, and we both love our state and our country." And at first he was very confused, like what, and then but by the end of the phone call he said, "Yeah, I'm in." And so a week later we filmed the ad together, and got it out, and within 2 weeks it was out, and it went viral. We had millions of hits. I pulled it up just on Twitter the other day. Just on my Twitter feed, it had like 6 million impressions, and there were lots of different. We had media requests from all over the country and all over the world. Actually, we did the BBC in Europe and together, and what it showed me is that there really is an exhausted majority out there that is hungry for something different. There's a market failure happening with both political parties right now. The first political party to figure this out, I think, is going to do very well, but neither of them seem interested in it yet. But hopefully, with what you're doing and so many other bridge builders, we'll find that we'll swing that pendulum back to where it needs to be.
Well, I hope so. Would love to hear more about Disagree Better, the campaign itself, and how have the other governors been getting involved, and what is the response from the public been like?
Yeah. So as we were looking at doing this, we thought, okay, so it's a great idea, but what do we actually do? And this a year after we filmed that ad, a professor here submitted it to the Stanford Depolarization and Social Change Lab as part of this huge depolarization experiment. And it was one of 25 interventions that they tested on over 30,000 people. And what they found was that our ad, it wasn't just like a feel-good thing. It actually had a measurable depolarization effect, including a reduction in urges towards violence, which kind of surprised us, and which was a really good thing. So we thought that we would kind of start with that as a basis. So I asked my fellow governors if they would be willing to do ads like ours. And they, to their credit, they did. So Governor Polis, my vice chair, who's a Democrat, this is a bipartisan organization, we did the first ad, and it was about disagreeing better around the dinner table. That we can, as you get ready for Thanksgiving or just family get-togethers, that we use the term your MAGA uncle or your woke niece could actually have a conversation without hating each other. And people loved that ad. We've now had 20 governors participate in some way. Most of them have filmed a similar ad with someone from the other side of the aisle, a public servant from the other side of the aisle in their state. We've been having these convenings across the country with bridge building organizations that have come together. One of the best things we did at our winter meeting in DC, we were so fortunate. We had 2 Supreme Court justices, a conservative and a liberal, Justice Barrett and Justice Sotomayor, on stage together, something they don't do very often, speaking specifically about this, how that institution works through. We hear about how divided the court is, and their story was very different than I think what you would hear from the news. And I would encourage people to Google that. You can watch it. It's really incredible and something to share. But these convenings with experts, what we're trying to do is to lift up the groups who are already doing this work. Many of them have been toiling in obscurity. We're trying to shine a light on them and help people know and elected leaders know that there are very good people out there doing this work, and we hope to be able to help them.
That's great. I love it. Well, I think that it's worth digging into a little bit of the challenges that you're facing. Disagree Better is all about listening to the other side, of course, but everyone on this call has seen different behavior from a lot of politicians. What we see in our politics and the news and social media is often a very different story, right? So I worry that some people may be too cynical and jaded to believe that disagreeing better can actually make a difference. So what are you doing and what can we do to overcome the resistance?
Yeah, so there's, we're trying to look at this in different categories. I've already mentioned the politicians piece of this. We need politicians who are willing to speak this language and to try to treat their opponents with dignity and respect. And so we're trying to recruit them. I'm trying to convince them that this isn't just good for the country, but it's actually good politics, that you can get elected doing this. We're focusing on families. We believe that that's very important. I already mentioned one ad that we did, but helping kids at a young age understand how to disagree. This really is just conflict resolution. We've been working with higher ed significantly. As you in the news just this week, we're seeing that higher ed used to be the best place for this. When I went to college, this is where we debated and argued, and then we went out and had dinner together. And so we're trying to help there. But this is, for purposes of this call, the last area that we really want to focus on is employment and our CEOs, the culture of work and what's happening there. I get pushback, and you will too. The pushback comes in two forms. The first form is, and mostly I hear this from the right, although it's mixed, but usually from the right I hear, oh, you just want us to go along to get along. You just want us to agree with everyone. You don't want us to stand by our principles. And so I have to push back on that. That's not what we're talking about. You should have values and principles that you believe in and that you believe passionately in. Usually from the left, what I hear is, well, I'm not going to engage with those people. Like, those people don't, they don't think I should exist, or they preach hatred or whatever it is. Now, I'm not asking anybody to go into a situation that is dangerous, but far too often in modern society, we've associated discomfort for danger, and that's not the case. And so what you find is it really is the only way to learn from each other and to change hearts and minds eventually. It's so much harder to hate up close. And so when we have these opportunities to spend more time, I have lots of tips that I give to people. One of them is be curious, and two is to spend time with people who are different than you. And what you always find out is they're not that much different than you. We may, again, have some different political beliefs, but generally we want the same things. We love our families. We care about our country. We want to make it a better place. We just go about it a different way. And so while I encourage people to spend more time together, I also encourage CEOs to spend less time on politics. I encourage our businesses. I've seen this turn from healthy to very unhealthy as we start introducing more and more affinity groups, and we start dividing ourselves up, and our Slack channels get so divided, and we expect our business leaders to weigh in on every single issue, whatever the Supreme Court ruled this week, or whatever's happening in Israel or Hamas, and the more we find the appropriate times and places to engage in political discourse. What we need more of today is finding shared identities, the identities that used to define us. When I was younger, I didn't know the politics of my neighbors or the people in my congregation because we rarely talked about it. Our political identities were way down the list. I was I'm a dad. I'm a Utahn. I'm a Utah Jazz fan. I'm all of these things, and eventually I'm a Republican. But now we tend to lift that up. And the workplace is one of the areas where we're doing that more and more, where I think, being colleagues and finding other shared identities could really help us to lower that tension.
Absolutely. Well, we love this idea that people bring their best selves to the workplace most of the time. And it is one of the few places where we do still interact with people who are different from us, but with shared purpose. And it really is an opportunity to, lift up these same themes around how we can understand one another's viewpoints and respect the human, even when we disagree about things that are really important, whether that's work or what's happening in our society or politics. So, could not agree with you more on that. I do think it's worth talking about leadership in businesses and what they can do outside the workplace. I very much agree. Weighing in on every single issue at a certain point is no longer productive and can even alienate a lot of your employees. But many of the companies we work with have concerned C-suite leaders, and they have staff in public affairs, government relations, and social impact. We've got a number of them on the call today. So what can businesses do to help encourage our public officials to disagree better?
Yeah, look, this is where I think business can have the most impact. And again, as just all of us as members of society, we need to start demanding this of our elected leaders. We tend to ask them about issues. My goal is to this is the issue above all the other issues, and I want to literally make it an issue. So when you're talking to your elected leaders and you're asking them what their viewpoint is on taxes or regulation or whatever it is, ask them what are they doing to help depolarize our country. What are they doing to treat people who are different than them with respect and dignity? Make them answer the question. Let them know that that's important to you. The other thing I would recommend, and this is where I think that our business leaders really can change the culture of our country, and that is in advertising. Now, I've just said you want to stay out of politics generally, right? As Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy shoes too, right? Whatever that is. So we don't need more divisiveness, but what we can do is we can use advertising as a way to reach this exhausted majority and as a way to bring people together. I mentioned that depolarization study that Stanford did. Their most effective ad actually wasn't ours. Ours was close, but there was an ad that was more effective, and it was Heineken. And you can Google this. We can maybe post it in the chat. But Heineken did this incredible ad where they had people come in together. Two strangers come in, and they had to build, I think, a bar together. And so it was like an IKEA project. So they build this bar together. And then the producers come in afterwards and said, okay, you've done this now. We want to show you something. And we're going to show you an interview we did with each of you before. And they came from polar opposite sides. People who would hate each other normally in this hyperpolarized society. So they showed the interview with the one person, they showed the interview with the other person. They said, now you have an option. You can walk out of this room, or you can have a Heineken together. And they chose to have a Heineken together. This ad will make you tear up. It was emotional, it was powerful, and it showed that people who would have hated each other had this bonding experience of building this thing together and ended up becoming close and friends and liking each other. I do think that we could use so much more of that. There's an emotional tilt towards this. You can imagine McDonald's, a dad in a Make America Great Again hat, and a daughter in a rainbow scarf who haven't talked in some time, coming together and sharing a meal together. And bridge building is powerful and it's emotional, and most of us want to do that at our core. We just don't know how. So I would love to see more companies really leaning in and helping to sell their products in a way that bring people together.
I love it. And I wanted to pull out a thread in a couple of your remarks here, which is that there's actually data that show that these interventions work. Sometimes these soft skills and disagreeing better, being civil, it feels very mushy. But when it comes down to it, we actually can measure affective polarization, and that doing certain activities makes a difference. Also, just going to call out a comment in the Q&A here that there's a polarization research lab that investigates these things, and they're going to be releasing a powerful platform that will hold politicians accountable to adopt bridge building and collaborative behavior. It's yet another way that we can actually measure outcomes, and it'll help us figure out how to leverage our voice in supporting bridge building. I think another question here I'd like to touch on quickly is about election campaigns. I know that Frank Luntz spoke, he's famous for his political messaging, and he spoke to the National Governors Association meeting. He did some research, and he's encouraging, and he believes that you can win without using negative tactics. Do you have any examples of successful election campaigns, especially in purple states, as we say, where the elections are more competitive, where they've been able to engage without the negative campaigning?
Yeah, sadly, I don't have many examples because very, very few people are doing it. But what Frank did, and this is another session that is public that you can watch on the National Governors Association website. It was fascinating. Frank did two things. One, he did a poll, and then he did one of his focus groups on this, and it was very powerful. Again, to see how deeply polarized we are and how dangerous that is, but also this kind of hunger for something different. My campaign was so unique because there just aren't many examples where people have been willing to do this. The conflict entrepreneurs, the political industrial complex, as I refer to them, they're full of cowards. They just copy whatever somebody did last time, and negative campaigning does have an effect, but again, not enough people are trying the other side of that. I was able to show that it can be very effective. The polling shows that it can be very effective. And what you do though subtly is it's not just being positive, but making this an actual issue in the campaign, right? It's calling out the negative ads and making kind of waking people up to it. It's like, yeah, I don't like that. I know I don't like it. I'm tired of every time I watch TV, this is all I hear. I would love something different. I'm hungry for something different. And oh, this candidate's giving me something different.
Well, we are running a little bit low on time, and I did want to ask you a final question here. As you brought up yourself, sometimes people, the objection to the Disagree Better campaign is often that while people agree with it in principle, they don't want to interact with those people, right? Whoever it is that they think is the most deplorable on the other side of some social issue or on the political spectrum. And when I saw you speak in DC, you came and spoke to a group of bridgers and talking about how we could all work together. And you shared a really touching anecdote about the power of an activist in Utah
Mm.
who learned these skills and reached across a very deep divide. And could I ask you to share that story with us?
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to do it. It was powerful for me. So this is somebody on the other side of the aisle from me. His name's Troy Williams. He is an activist, an LGBTQ activist. He is the director of Equality Utah, which is kind of the premier LGBTQ activist organization in the state of Utah. Troy and I have battled on some things. We worked together on some things, and he 2 years ago he decided that he was going to buy a booth space at the Republican State Convention. All right, the last place that you would ever expect to see this organization. And again, we're a red state, but this convention is the most red of the red, right? This is where kind of the most extreme delegates show up. There's about 4,000 delegates that get selected every year, and they tend to be much further right, especially on social issues. So everybody told him he was crazy. There were actually people who tried to get them thrown out, and to the credit of the organizers, they said nope. They met all the qualifications. They paid for their booth space. They get to be here. And so he spent time working with his team, training them on how to engage with people who are very, very angry with you, very polarized. And he did some things that I'd heard before. He did one thing that was new to me. So what they would do is they would just very open and say, hey, please tell me more about why you feel that way. That's a magical phrase, something I use all the time whenever I'm in a kind of a hostile situation. It has a tendency to really de-escalate. It gives the other person a chance to be heard. Really powerful. So they would do this. They would engage respectfully. Then, he would ask, now, can I share with you why I feel the way I do? And after listening to them, they're much more likely to hear back. But then they did something that was unique to me. He said that we would always say, I'm going to give you the last word, anything you think I should know, which is incredibly deferential. Well, I can tell you it was a wild experience for all of them. But the stories he shared, honestly, I believed in this stuff, but I wasn't sure it could work in this situation. But he told me one story in particular about a man who came and was so angry, just yelling at them, screaming at them. And Troy, to his credit, went up to him again, treated him very respectfully, listened to him, shared his thoughts in a kind way, and then said, I'm going to give you the last word. And the guy just looked at him and then gave him a hug and apologized. And now, look, I'm pretty sure that guy didn't go out and buy a pride flag. He didn't vote for Joe Biden, but in that moment, right, they saw each other as human beings. And I do believe that person will forever treat people who are different than him with a little more respect than he did before that engagement. Now, again, Troy didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go there. He didn't have to be in that space, but he did. And he made a difference. And I think all of us were better because of that. So it helped inspire me to try harder and to be better. I don't always get it right. I make mistakes all of the time. The incentive structure of our politics is the complete opposite of all of this. We get rewarded with more hits and clicks and more time on cable news if I'm loud and obnoxious and treat other people with disrespect. But I think our country desperately needs this, and I'm grateful, Sarah, there are people like you and others who are doing the real work of bridge building.
Great. And Governor, any final thoughts or remarks for our friends in the business world before you go?
All I can say is this is, folks, look, however important you think this is, I promise it's more important. I truly believe that the future of our country, and not just our country, I had the ambassador from Switzerland who pleaded with us as governors in a very powerful speech that we were not expecting, saying that this depolarization in the United States of America is destabilizing the entire world. And they need a strong America because there is no one else that can fill that void. And people like Vladimir Putin and countries like Iran and China are emboldened because we're so busy fighting about things that often don't matter. And so I'm just desperate for more of you to join this small but burgeoning, growing group of bridge builders. We need your help. So please stand with us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that call to action. And it's been wonderful talking to you today. And I understand you have to run. So thank you again. We hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks again to Governor Cox and the National Governors Association for their leadership and helping to make this happen. Just a quick reminder before everyone goes, please do visit the Disagree Better at Work website and sign up for updates, DBAW, disagreebetteratwork.us. Or if you really want to get involved, contact us directly, info@bfa.us. Today is just the beginning. We're really excited to work with each of you to help make this vision a reality. Have a great day, everyone.